Okay, well, it is a new week in our class, Teaching and Learning with Digital Technology, and this is January 15th, so we're getting kicked off with our second week in the class. I have graded all the items from last week if you completed them, and I think basically that just meant the discussion board for last week to complete that. But if you haven't yet, make sure you do complete that. If you haven't finished it yet, then go ahead and do it now to get caught up. Also, with the Tech Talk, be sure to sign up for a time. So click on this Intentional Tech Talk and Integration Recipe sign up sheet and fill out your name. If you don't know the tool yet that you're going to present, that's okay. You can just put a name on a week that you want to present for that and have that ready. It's great to see already so many of you have filled that out and are ready to go with that assignment. So that's one thing to remember to do. The recipe part of that is new maybe for some of you, and or maybe for all of you. So that part, the Tech Talk presentation yourself, you're going to record that with a tool like Screencast-O-Matic. And last week I gave you a creating an online presentation link there, so you can go back and refer to that if you need to as you prepare to do your Tech Talk assignment. But for the actual recipe part, there's a lot of ways you can do this, and I just wanted to show you a couple of easier ones to use. You could use something like Adobe Spark, which is a cool website. If you want to learn something new that you don't know yet, Adobe Spark is a great one to go on to and create your own little Spark page. And the page tool is what you'd use for that. There's also some other cool tools that you could use to do this. There's different online posters. For instance, PictoChart is another example of one. But I'm just going to show you some more simple versions of that. So let me go here and open up Word, for instance. Microsoft Word allows you to create different templates, and a lot of times it comes up and asks you what template you want to have here in the opening of the Word document. You can choose a template to go from, and some of my favorites for this type of an assignment are the newsletters ones. Even though this isn't really a newsletter, it's kind of a newsletter about a tool. And you can go through, you can see some of these nice graphical layouts that they already have created for you, and pick one. I picked this one, and you can actually select different color schemes if you want to with it too, and change that up a bit. But I'll just go with the Office one. And then a font scheme as well, you can change that. But I just go with the defaults and hit choose, and that creates me a new fake newsletter that I can now add in the information for. And it's got a couple of pages, but I can just get rid of the second and third page on this. And then I can change, I don't need a date in here probably, so I can click on that maybe and remove it. Get rid of that item and maybe change it to be, our class name or something like that. And then the tool that I want to present about it, let's say it is PictoChart. And so I can change whatever I want to in this. If this picture should be changed, which it probably should, you want to include a picture of the item, then you can just basically click on any picture here and choose change picture or replace picture and choose a picture from on your computer. Change these. Maybe these could be steps to take in the app, or in the tool that you're talking about. So you could change that to say step 1, open the app, step 2, click on whatever it is. And this could be a little bit of information about the app and what it does along with this subtitle here. So that's what I would do for Word. If I had Microsoft Word available to me, I would use one of these templates and just create a nice recipe sheet using that for my Tech Talk recipe and integration, or Tech Talk integration recipe. Another tool that I can use, if you have a Mac, there's this tool called Pages, and you can open that up. And again, it brings you with a nice sheet, and you can hit New Document. It will ask you what kind of document you want. And again, the newsletters choice is a good one. So my sample one, I used this school newsletter format, but you could use any of these. And again, open them up, change. I could choose that one, for instance. Open it up and change the elements to it to be the tool that I have chosen. Maybe these could be steps now for the tool, and this could be the word, the tool and a picture of it. So that's what I would do to create this assignment. More the easier way is pick a template first and then go ahead and create the assignment. So that's for last week's item. That's for the Tech Talk and integration recipe assignment that we showed you last week. This week it's all Meaningful Learning Framework. So you are going to be learning about this framework and going through these different assignments here. I've got presentations that you can watch about each one as you go through and look at those. And I probably need to update these so that they'll link outside of the page. So I'll do that real quick to make sure that they can be viewed by you. But you're going to be learning about this framework and this idea that meaningful learning needs to happen with technology. In other words, if you're going to integrate technology into the learning experience, it won't necessarily change whether students achieve or learn better just by putting the technology in there. You also have to add a good framework for learning, a good method of learning, because it's really the learning methods that we use with technology that make the difference, not just the technology itself. So that's what we're talking about this week. How can we make our learning meaningful? And there are 5 elements to this. We're going to talk about 3 of them this week and 2 next week. And so make sure you take notes and learn about these different elements. And then for the discussion, you are going to post about either active, constructive, or authentic learning. Research it a little bit as you read about it this week and post a good example of how this element would work in a real learning situation. So that's the discussion for this week. Is to go ahead and do that, post, and respond to 2 other students' responses or posts. And that's the assignment for this week. But we are looking forward to next week too, because next week you'll finish the Meaningful Learning Framework elements and do some more reading there. And then you'll also need to post on intentional or cooperative learning. And then you're going to complete the Meaningful Learning assignment. And that assignment requires you to look at the Meaningful Learning Framework and what you have learned so far in the class, and then in your own words explain, define, and give a good example of each of the 5 elements in your own words. And you have to do this in an online format. You have to create some kind of online media that explains, defines, and gives an example of each element of the Meaningful Learning Framework. And you can create a poster online using Padlet or Poplet. You can create a podcast using one of these websites, a storybook online using one of these sites, a concept map, a presentation, or even a comic book. But it must be, whatever you choose, you have to be able to create, to define and explain and give an example of each of the 5 elements. So what I would do if I were you too is I would look into some of these this week. Spend a little bit of time just looking into which one of these sites maybe you want to use to create your meaningful learning assignment so that you understand the site, because it's going to take a little bit of time learning about the site and understanding how it works, although most of the ones that I've picked here are pretty easy to use. But you do have to spend some time on them so you can get this assignment done. So that's something to be aware of too. That assignment's coming up for next week. And so other than that though, I think this week we've got everything taken care of. So just make sure that you learn what you can about the Meaningful Learning Framework in preparation for that assignment, as well as the discussion boards that will come up in the next few weeks. Have a great week.